Hi, welcome to episode 19 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura, and you can find me on Ravelry as Fluffy K, on Twitter and Instagram as Fluffy Kira. I have a shop on Etsy, which is the Stash Buckler Adventures in Yarn, and I blog over at the Corner of Knit and Tea, which is also where this episode's show notes will be. Finally, we have a group on Ravelry, the Corner of Knit and Tea, and we are currently doing a knit-along for end-of-the-year gifts. It doesn't actually have to be a holiday gift, but anything you submit to a thread in there has to be a gift for someone else. It can't be an item for you. And we are going to have some prize drawings. That runs, it started November 12th and it will run through December 31st. And I thought I would show you the prizes today because I would love to have you come over and join us. It's not too late. Basically, any finished object that you made between November 12th and December 31st is eligible. I will close the thread probably late on the 30th. Well, okay, I'll wait till the morning of the 1st to close the thread, and then I will announce the winners on my podcast, which should be on the 3rd or 4th. But I have a few prizes for that. The first 2 lucky winners will get a Ravelry pattern from me, and that can be up to $10, so you can just pick which pattern you want, and you'll send me a PM, and I will go ahead and send that to you as a gift. The prize from me will be a skein of Unwind Yarn Company. It is Journey Sock, which is 80% Superwash Merino, 20% nylon, and the colorway is Midsummer Night's Dream. So that is a prize for one lucky winner in the thread from me. And we also had a generous donation from Kippy Ann, who is in the thread as well. And this prize is a skein of Wilmas Twin, which is 80% Superwash Merino, 20% nylon. And it is in the Gazpacho colorway, which actually, as I was looking today, would make pretty fun Christmas socks. It's got a lighter kind of reddish orange, a darker red, and some stripes of kind of an olivey green. So that is also a prize in the thread. One lucky winner will get that. So please come join us over in the Ravelry group, and you'll see that there is a chatter thread where you're welcome to talk and post photos and let people ooh and ah over your gifts. And then there is a no chatter thread where you can submit one post for each finished object, and I will be running a random number generator and awarding those on my podcast on January 3rd or 4th. So welcome. I hope you've had a good week. We are less than a week from Christmas, so I hope that those of you who are celebrating have finished your holiday gifts and holiday knitting, and that you're having fun. I do have to work Monday and Tuesday this week, but my boss is on vacation, so it should be pretty quiet. Just catch up on a few things, and then I'm going to enjoy a 5-day weekend. My office actually gives me Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after Christmas off, and then that flows right into the weekend. So it should be good. We're going to do kind of a quiet Christmas this year. We are hosting. My mother-in-law and her boyfriend will be joining us, so it'll just be the 4 of us. And we've picked a few new recipes to try. Normally we do the traditional turkey and ham, and so this year we're going to try a few new things, and I hope they turn out well. And it'll just be a quiet day. We're supposed to get a little bit of snow on Christmas, or Christmas night, so it should be kind of a nice little holiday for us. And my crafting mojo is all over the place. I have a million things I want to cast on and do, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And so that's what's been doing here. Today's tea, I wanted to stick with holiday teas. Today's tea is a sample from the Republic of Tea. It's peppermint bark. And the ingredients are green rooibos, organic peppermint, organic cocoa extract, organic vanilla flavor, stevia leaf, and natural flavor. So that is peppermint bark. It came in a sample in their winter catalog. And I am drinking it today out of a hand warmer mug. It's this mug that has this really cool slot in the side. It's ceramic, and you can put your hand in and hold the mug there. Actually, it's a little hot right now, to warm your hand. And this was a Christmas gift from my sister, along with some teas that I will be trying shortly. So I decided to put my peppermint tea in this mug, and it kind of color coordinates, and it's very holiday themed. So that is what I'm drinking today. Ooh, that's pretty good. It's a peppermint tea, and it's just a little bit creamy. So I like that. It's pretty good. So that is your holiday tea and what I'm drinking, which brings me to what I'm wearing. I always wear this sweater around Christmas because it is such a rich red. I will stand up briefly. This is the Victoria Buttoned Raglan by Kirsten Hipsky. It was a pattern that was on the cover of a Webs catalog several years ago, and I looked at it and thought, wow, I want to knit that. And I had a sweater quantity of Madeline Tosh Vintage in the Tart colorway, which might possibly be the most amazing red I've ever seen. I love, love, love this colorway. It is so deep and rich. And I actually knit this for my Nanny Swaymo 2010. So that's 4 years ago, and finished it in November, just in time for December. And like I said, it kind of feels like a Christmas sweater. I wear it at other times during the winter, but it's just such a wonderful red. I often wear it to holiday parties, and it keeps me nice and cozy warm. So that's what I'm sipping and what I'm wearing, so I guess we'll get into what I'm working on. I do have a finished object this week. In fact, I delayed recording for a couple of hours because I really, really wanted to finish it. I have finished. Now, the ends are not woven in and it is not blocked, and it is definitely going to need a blocking, but I finished my Christmas tree skirt. Now, I realized I have talked before about selecting the right yarn for the pattern, and I have realized that I did not select the right yarn for the pattern because feather and fan in the round lace tends to need quite a bit of blocking, and of course I picked a yarn that, due to its acrylic nature, will not block terribly well. And I love like the poinsettia in the middle. That's kind of my favorite thing. And I know that this is blowing out, the color is blowing out the camera. I will try and take some better photos. And like I said, I have a few ends that still need to be woven in. Also, I gave some wrong advice last week, so I'd like to correct that now. As I said, this will not block terribly easily, and I will probably need to do something that's called killing the acrylic. Now, last week I spoke about an iron with sufficient heat. Please, please, please totally disregard that. You cannot touch your iron to this. It will melt the plastic and you will ruin your iron. So please, please, please don't do that. I was corrected both by someone in my comments and by a couple of PMs that the way to kill acrylic is with steam blocking. Now, to do that, you pin your project out the way that you want it, exactly the way that you want it, because once you steam block, there is no going back with acrylic. And then you either let the iron hover slightly above the work, and if you have you need to have a steam iron so that you can release steam on it. And so you do not actually touch the iron to the work, but you let the steam. You do not actually touch the iron to the acrylic, but you let the steam do the work. The other way that I read is that you can pin it out the way you want it, and then you can use a wet towel, not sopping wet, but not just damp, over it. And then you can run the iron over the towel, which, because it's wet, will release steam into the blanket. And that's probably what I'm going to do. I did get some advice that told me that acrylic wasn't that bad and that you can wash it and most of it will block out. I do plan on throwing this in the washing machine today and seeing what happens. I suspect I will still need to pin it kind of aggressively to get everything to show, in which case then, and as you know, acrylic won't really hold its blocking or its shape. So I suspect, just because of the nature of the tension of this, I am going to need to kill the acrylic. So, but that is now finished being knit. I'm going to weave in a few ends and stick it in the washing machine this afternoon, and hopefully, I hope it will be ready for Christmas. It won't actually get used for Christmas. Because the tree is already up and decorated, and because of the way I knit it with the hole in the center, we would have to lift the tree up and put it around the tree stand, and so that's not actually going to happen, but I would love to finish it for Christmas this year. And then my thought was, after we take the ornaments and the lights off the tree, I may just stage a small photo shoot with the skirt underneath the tree, and then I will pack it away and we will use it next year. But it was still fun to knit it during the season, and I'm pretty proud of myself because I started this last weekend, and I basically, in less than 2 weeks, knit almost 600 yards of bulky yarn into a Christmas tree skirt, and I worked on other projects too. So that is my Christmas tree skirt. Again, the pattern is Hemlock Ring blanket, which is adapted by Jared Flood. The yarn I used was Lion's Pride Wool Spun, which is a bulky from Lion Brand Yarns in the colorway Red. And I hate that it's blowing out the camera. I am so sorry about that. And I will be posting more photos on Instagram once I get it the way I want it. So yes, that is a big finished object for today. So that brings me to the other projects that I'm knitting. Hold on, I have a project down. Project down! Project down! I didn't show you last week because I didn't put in a lot of work on it, but I did put in more work on it this week. I still don't know that you'll really be able to see a huge difference. This is the Alina Shawl. It's by Lanka Comero, and it is a very pretty shawl, which the top is just a triangle with eyelets, and then the bottom is a lacy border. And I am almost done with the first skein. I just have a little bit left. And this is Malabrigo lace weight in the teal feather colorway, and this is one of my favorite yarns because it is so incredibly soft and warm. So my original plan was to use 2 balls on the body and then use the 3rd ball for the lace edging. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that because this already is fairly sizable and it will block out even more, although I probably won't aggressively block it. So I may use like a ball and a half before I go ahead and add the edging. I'm not quite ready yet because I would like it pretty sizable, but I don't know if I'll go all the way and use 3 skeins. So that is my Alina shawl. So, and I did, like I said, I don't know if you saw that much difference. I added several more sections this week, and I will be working on this more now that a lot of my knits are done. So the third thing that I worked on this week is, if you will remember last episode, I showed you the Eternity Scarf by Michelle Wang. It was included in a in Brooklyn Tweed Fall 2012, and I was knitting that for a friend of mine who had had a rough time. It was kind of a textured scarf. It had some ribbing and a little bit of what looked a little waffly, and I did it in a gray, and I loved it, and so I kind of wanted one for myself. Meanwhile, once I posted finished pictures, a bunch of people asked me what it was, and I think I enabled a few people into the pattern, and I know I enabled one person into buying gray yarn. So Kimmy and I, Kim from Come Knit With Us, are doing a little knit along, just the 2 of us, although if anyone else is interested, please feel free to cast on and join in. We have been posting photos on Instagram. I really wanted to buy some Malabrigo Rios, which I have never used, to do the scarf, but I convinced myself that I should be knitting from stash, and I even found something in the stash that I thought would be wonderful. So I found a skein of Wilmas. This is Merino in the DK base, which is approximately between 450 and 500 yards a skein. Her skeins are always heavy, so they always weigh more than the label says. So I have close to 500 yards in this skein, but I can't remember exactly what the normal yardage is. I think it's about between 450 and 475. This is in the Magnolia Dark colorway. So as you can tell, it's a magenta, and then it's got a little bit of a dusty colorway to it, and there are sections that are, it's a semi-solid, and there are sections that are a little bit brighter and sections that are a little bit more muted, but it is a semi-solid colorway, and the base is DK. The pattern actually calls for worsted, but the last one I knew it was in DK as well, so I decided to stick with it. And I cast on last night along with Kim, and I am, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows in, and I just have a little bit to show you, but as you can see, I'm starting to get a little bit of the texture at the edge. So that is another project for me. I don't anticipate it will take too long, but I thought it would be nice to knit over Christmas. Sorry, my hair gets in it. And so that is the third project that I'm working on. I also have approximately 1,000,001 things that I want to knit. I have some bulky yarn that I bought to knit a hat, and I almost pulled that out to show you today, but decided that I wouldn't because I have 2 more things that I want to cast on this week, and at some point it's just too many. Also, I put my name in to play in the Harry Potter House Cup in the winter, so January, February, March, and so I am trying to hold off casting on a few things because for Harry Potter, the classes have to be completed between the 1st and the end of the month, and so anything that's in progress, you can submit it as a partial in detention, which is something that has been started before the month, but I don't want to have a whole bunch of projects that are like halfway done on the needles because I won't be able to submit much stuff in January. However, I do I have a couple things that I want to do. I think I talked last time. I have a skein of mustache mustache yarns, Dark Side of the Moon, and I really wanted to cast on for socks for those, so I have that next to the ball winder. And then the other thing that I decided, so I'm a little late. As you might have noticed, I decided to knit a Christmas tree skirt just a couple weeks before Christmas after the tree was already up, so it won't actually be used this year. All month I have been looking at everyone knitting their beautiful Christmas socks with stripes or variegates of Christmas colors and have been just absolutely jealous, and I have had my hand on the buy button several times, but I have been trying not to because I knew I wouldn't get them done in time. And then on Thursday, I just couldn't handle it. There was a beautiful, beautiful skein of sock yarn in Marigold Jen's shop. It is not stripy, it is a variegate, but it has reds and pinks and greens, and it's called Merry and Bright, and it was so beautiful, and I just couldn't stand it, so I hit the buy button. And that should be here Monday or Tuesday. So I decided that I'm actually going to cast on Christmas socks along with, or Christmas Eve cast on socks with Little Bobbins Knits. I don't know if you have watched that, but that's a great podcast with Danielle, and she suggested that everyone should get together a Christmas Eve cast on so that we could cast on and knit together on Christmas Eve. And I decided, I picked a pattern, and I decided that I wanted to start my Christmas socks on Christmas Eve. Now, of course, this is kind of ridiculous because I won't be able to wear them this year, obviously, but I decided that I could knit them in the next couple weeks during the season with holidays and where everyone's feeling kind of seasonal. And then I will have them in place to knit them or to wear them next year. So I have that coming as well. So now I have a cowl, a shawl, and I want to cast on 2 pairs of socks and a hat, and I have all kinds of projects that I have yarn for and patterns for, and it's kind of making me crazy because I really want to do it. The other thing that I have decided, and I guess I'll talk about it here just to keep myself accountable, is one of my goals I decided for the first quarter of the year, so that is January 1st through March 31st, I want to knit from stash. I have so much stash, and we've had to do some work on the house, and there have been some other things, and I really have no business buying yarn. And so I know that if I say I'm not going to buy for the entire year, or if I put like a really, really restrictive amount of time on myself, that I will most certainly break it. But I decided that for January, February, and March, I'm going to try and not buy any yarn. and I am going to knit from my stash. So all the projects that I do in the next few months will be things that I already own. I'm also going to try and knit from patterns that I have on hand because I have bought so many patterns and I have so many books. I won't promise that I won't buy a pattern here or there because I do have a couple projects in mind with yarn that I bought specifically for that project, and if I don't own the pattern, I don't really want to necessarily pick something else to knit. But so that is one of my goals from January to March. The only thing I'm not including in that is I am in the Hello Yarn and Southern Cross Fiber clubs, and I am not going to drop out of those because I would never ever get back in. But I have dropped both of those down to a single dose. You can choose to receive either 1 bump per month or 2 bumps per month, and I have decided for now to stick with 1 bump per month. So I'm excited to see what I can knit up and spin up and out of my stash and not have quite so much coming in. I do kind of, I joined, there is a stash down group on Ravelry. I did that actually 2 or 3 years ago, and I've sort of been tracking what comes in and what goes out, and I consider myself, I consider it a positive if more goes out than comes in, but that doesn't mean I've really stopped buying, so the stash is still maintaining its size. I just have to make sure that I knit or sell more than I take in each quarter, and yeah. So that is one of my goals for next year. I know a lot of people have been talking about crafting goals, and I'll talk a little bit about mine in this podcast and probably next week, but that is one of my goals, and so I'm going to try and make it a stash quarter. So that brings me to spinning. Last week I had 2 bobbins that I showed you. The first was the second bobbin of the chestnut cherry fiber that I had dyed and then spun up, and I finished spinning that up. Interesting to note, both bobbins that I spun last week, I must have been going faster because I spun them closer to a worsted than I did to a sport. So both of them came out a little less yardage than I'm used to, but undeniably squishy, and so that is somewhat pleasing. So this is the chestnut cherry skein. There is one in the shop. This one I may keep for myself because I have some project ideas in mind, and since they're not exactly the same weight, it would be hard to use both in a project. So that's that one. The second one that I showed you was the Sweet Georgia Superwash Merino in the fondant colorway, and I am so pleased with how this came out. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is turquoises, bright pinks, and browns. And that just came out to be a beautiful skein. As I said, it's a little bit more towards worsted weight. It's about 245 yards, and that is available in the shop. It is squishy, so squishy, and I think it is superwash, so I think it would make a great pair of house socks. Because it's worsted, you wouldn't need quite as much yardage to do house socks or slippers, or I think it would be a great hat or a cowl or just some fun accessory. So yeah, so that is that one. Next, I showed you the fiber from the Hello Yarn Club, and it was the, let me think about this now, the October fiber, which was Hidden Thicket on Corriedale, and it was all kinds of greens, and I have finished spinning the singles. I just need to ply that up tonight, but I am super pleased with how that came out. The camera doesn't show all the greens. There's kind of a bluey mint, there's kind of a greeny mint, olive, Kelly green, forest green, and what's kind of interesting is actually I saw, I destashed the second braid of this to Kate over at the Stitch Addiction podcast, and when she described the colors, she described it including browns, and I went back and looked at my skein, and I think this is one of those things where color is can be very subjective. I sort of thought this braid was all greens, and that even the ones that looked a little browner were like more olive greens, whereas she saw browns. Now, of course, the skeins could have been dyed in different batches, so there could have been more of a brown tone to hers, but I just thought it was interesting that I saw this as all different shades of green, and she saw it as greens and browns. So anyway, you'll have to decide. I plan to ply that up this evening, and then I will, it'll have a bath and dry, and then this one is actually going in the shop as well, so there will be plenty of pictures, and I will post on Instagram when it is ready and in the shop. And I spun this one pretty thin, so I suspect it will be more like my usual sport weight. So that brings me to what's coming up next. I decided, let me talk a little bit about my spinning for this year. My goal this year was to spin what I considered 52 braids in 2014. My goal was basically to spin 4 ounces a week. And so I started numbering my spins at the beginning of the year and tracking how many ounces I spun. And some braids that I get, for instance, the braids that operate on the metric system, so that come from places outside the United States, oftentimes they are either 100 grams or 110 grams, which means they are actually short of 4 ounces by a little bit. 110 grams is 3.9 ounces. The other thing is that some braids that I spun were overweight, or I spun multiple braids for a project. So as of last count, you know, I didn't check how many pounds. I know I'm just a little bit over 13. I'm probably like 13.25 pounds with the Hidden Thicket spin. And I think I might make it to 14 pounds. And Hidden Thicket, I called it spin number 51 of the year. It's kind of interesting. I am not entirely consistent. This is not the 51st braid of the year because I have spun more braids. For instance, the chocolate cherry braid was 8 ounces and I counted it as 1 spin, but of course it was more than 4 ounces. So, the bottom line is that my goal was 13 pounds, which I have now surpassed, and there is a group on Ravelry that tries to spin the number of pounds per year, so they're spinning 14 pounds in 2014, and I would be super stoked if I got there. So I am trying to finish up one last spin for the year, spin number 52. However, I have really wanted to do a combo spin, and this one actually will be for me. I decided the week of Christmas was going to be selfish spinning week because I have not really spun very much this year that I've kept. And I picked out 2 braids that I thought would go together super well. And they are, this is Spunky Eclectic. It is called Dark Merino, which I believe it's a mixed merino, and it's called Asteroid. And I actually have 2 braids of this one. Let me just kind of get this together. It is a dark merino, and then it's got little hints of burgundy and maybe like blue or purple and brown. It's really kind of an interesting color braid, and I have 2 of these. Now originally I was thinking I might do a 3-ply with 2 plies, 1 each of these, and then a third of another braid. Since then I've decided that I think I'm going to do a 2-ply with this and the other braid that I'm going to talk about, and then I might do just an extra skein of just this one plied on itself, and then try and do some larger project with them. Mostly I decided not to do a 3-ply for reasons that I mentioned in my last episode in a totally different context. One is that when I do a 3-ply, I get closer to a worsted weight, whereas when I do a 2-ply, I can get closer to a sport or a DK. And second is that with a 2-ply, I get more yardage than with a 3-ply. So, and I'd really like this to be some kind of project, maybe a shawl for myself. So I decided to do that. So I have 2 of these, and one of these I want to ply with. This is a Southern Cross Fiber braid from the club. It was from, let me see, it was the June Club. It is a BFL and silk, and it's called Seraglio. And I just love, it's got purples and reds and browns and a little bit of orange, and I just think that the 2 of these together, when I twist them together, I think they'll make a really nice yarn. So that is what I plan on spinning this coming week. If I'm lucky, I'll get 2 bobbins of singles done and be ready to ply. I do have some time off work, so I hope that I will have plenty of spin time to work on these and be able to show these to you. Theoretically, if I get all 3 done, the 2 braids of the Spunky Eclectic and this one, and get them plied up next weekend, I will hit 14 pounds because that'll be 12 ounces. So I am kind of hoping to do that, but I'm not sure that it will work because I also have to move the spinning wheel. It is like right next to the Christmas tree right now, and I will need to move it out of the way so that we can sit on the couches and have company. So I might not end up doing that, but that is what I want to spin this week after I ply the Hidden Thicket this afternoon. So I think that's all I've got. I am definitely planning to record next weekend, which will be the last weekend of 2014, and it will be episode 20, which is nice. It's kind of a momentous episode on closing the year. Oh, and the other thing that I was going to talk about was, so I think I'm going to adopt the same goal for next year, which is to spin 52 braids in 2015, and I think I will probably try and count the braids as singles next year, so even if I have an 8-ounce braid, I might break that into 2 so that I can see how many amounts of 4 ounces that I'm spinning and kind of keep up through the year. So far, like I said, those are my 2 goals. No stashing, knit all entirely from stash in January, February, and March, and then spin 52 braids in 2015. So those are my craft goals. I wonder what yours are. If you want to share, please leave a comment here, or we can start a chat thread over in the Ravelry group. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday with your family if you celebrate. If not, I wish you a wonderful end of the year and going into the new year. Like I said, I will see you one more time before then. And I also just want to take a short moment to thank you for tuning into my podcast and joining the Ravelry group and participating and leaving comments. I have really, really enjoyed this process and meeting all of you and becoming part of the YouTube podcasting community and getting to know more of you on Ravelry, and it definitely feels like a wonderful thing, especially this time of year. I'm just very thankful for all of you and that you continue to watch when I turn on a camera and talk to myself. And I just want to say the happiest of holidays to you. I hope you enjoy them and have some time for crafting. And I guess that is how I will conclude. I hope you have a wonderful week. Happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.